Hello and welcome back to Movie Recap Time. Today we are going to be recapping a 2006 action thriller film, titled Blood Diamond. The film is set in 1999 in war-torn Sierra Leone. A man named Solomon Vandy is a local fisherman who lives there with his family. Solomon is out walking with his son Dia when his town is unexpectedly attacked by dozens of the Revolutionary United Front or RUF insurgents. Solomon's family, including his wife, Jossie, manage to flee, but Solomon is kidnapped by the rebels. All of the men and young boys who are still alive are rounded up. Captain Poison, the rebels' leader, threatens to cut off their hands and declares that no hands means no voting. Solomon is fortunate in that he is allowed to keep his hands, but he is brought to work in the diamond mines. There, men discuss how diamonds are mined and sold to fuel the civil war that is happening in the country. A major diamond importer, Van de Kapp, is present there. Captain Poison is keeping an eye on the captured guys who are working to look for jewels. Suddenly, Captain Poison shoots a man who finds a diamond and tries to hide it in his mouth. Later, Solomon discovers a massive pink diamond in the diamond mines. He then buries it after covertly hiding it between his toes. Captain Poison finds him, but the National Army attacks them, injuring the captain. Just before being apprehended and imprisoned, Solomon buries the gem. Danny Archer, a South African smuggler and ex-soldier, is introduced to us in the next scene. He is apprehended and sent to Commander Zero, who offers him diamonds in exchange for his services. Danny poses as a photographer in the next scene, but is captured by soldiers who discover the concealed diamonds. He tries to bribe the soldiers by claiming to be buddies with someone called Colonel Coetzee. However, his plan fails and he is detained. Danny, Solomon, and the injured Captain Poison are later seen in the prison, and Captain Poison asks Solomon where the diamond is. He's never seen such a large diamond before. As the captain is hauled away, Danny listens to them converse. Danny is finally released free and devises a strategy to free Solomon. Danny and Solomon are now both free as a result of the plan's success. Finally free outside, Danny encounters a beautiful woman named Maddie Bowen at a beach bar after some time has passed. They converse and flirt, and she inquires as to whether he is a smuggler. However, Danny only responds that he is a fortunate soldier and chuckles. After talking for a while, Maddie starts seeking information on diamond smuggling and Van de Kapp, which makes Danny realize that she's a journalist. He walks away after telling her to get lost. Danny travels to Cape Town and is escorted to Colonel Coetzee's office. The colonel has been paid to assassinate the rebels, and he is well aware that Danny is on the lookout for the large diamond. Afterwards, Danny manages to hunt down Solomon. Meanwhile, Dia is discovered and kidnapped by rough rebels elsewhere. He and other young boys are being beaten up by rough rebels. The children are brainwashed and enlisted as child soldiers. Dia is compelled to assassinate a young man while blinded. Seeing this, Commander Poison quickly promotes him to captain of his juvenile army. It's now evening, and Danny returns from the beach bar to retrieve a gun, only to run into Maddie again. They dance and flirt, but the situation becomes unpleasant, and she leaves. You can sense the tension between them rising. The next day, army personnel patrol the streets, and things begin to spiral out of control as Danny and Solomon discuss the diamond once again. Danny informs Solomon that he helped him get out of jail and so he'll assist him in finding his family. As the RUF attacks the city, chaos ensues and Danny and Solomon flee for their life. As Danny and Solomon run through the streets, people are dying everywhere. Cars are set on fire, and people are getting shot while screaming. Danny and Solomon find shelter as the fighting continues, with the rebels on one side and the army on the other. Danny watches as the RUF executes army men while they hide in an old structure. The army has been defeated. The city flames that night as the RUF celebrates their army triumph. As we observe child soldiers celebrating, the city appears to be in a state of war. Danny and Solomon manage to flee, and they attempt to cross a bridge the next morning. RUF is stationed on the bridge, so Danny poses as Solomon's prisoner and shoots the guards. Solomon is taken aback when he sees Danny's firearm skills. Danny and Solomon arrive at a base camp some time later. Danny poses as a reporter and meets a handsome man with a camera. Danny asks him whether he knows Maddie and claims to have the story that she's seeking. Soon, Maddie arrives, and Danny informs her that he has information on Van de Kapp, but in order to get it, Maddie must assist Solomon in finding his family. She is aware that Danny is using Solomon, but she decides to assist him regardless. Sometime later, Maddie tells Solomon she's discovered his family. They proceed to head to a large refugee camp, where Maddie hands a soldier a piece of paper with Solomon's family's names on it. Solomon examines the groups for his family while Maddie shoots shots through the gate. There are people all around Solomon, yet he notices his wife and family. They dash to the gate, hand in hand, as Jossie informs him that Dia has been kidnapped by the rough. Solomon yells as soldiers slam him against the fence. We then see a sad-looking Solomon inside a helicopter with Maddie and Danny afterwards, as he tells Danny that his family won't be released until the war is ended, and that the diamond is buried nearby. As Solomon chats to Danny about his son, he appears depressed, and Danny goes to speak with Maddie. She counters with the argument that no one would buy a diamond ring if they knew it would cost someone else their hand back home. Danny urges her to assist him and Solomon in getting to Kono, where Danny will be a journalist and Solomon will be the cinematographer. Maddie initially refuses, but then Danny starts telling her about how the diamonds are being smuggled and moved around many countries before they are sold to the masses. He also tells her that Van de Kapp knows about the whole operation, and he is the one in control of diamonds' market price. To prove this and help out with Maddie's story, he shows her a book filled with information related to the diamond operation, such as names, dates, and bank accounts which would easily incriminate Van de Kapp. This finally convinces Maddie and the trio head to Kono on a bus filled with other journalists. They receive escort from the army, and they stop when they encounter a group of people on the street that has been ambushed. They are suddenly attacked by the rough. Solomon, Danny, and the others get into a car and drive away from the gunshots. Meanwhile, we see the inside of the rough base, which is filled with kid soldiers who are having a good time. They are given guns and undertake cool new names in order to appear tough. Dia is now known as See Me No More. These kid soldiers attack and kill villagers in the area. Meanwhile, the driver is shot and the journalists are ambushed and killed back in the bus full of journalists. Danny kicks the body out of the car and attempts to flee from the rough by driving away. As the rough pursues Danny until he crashes his car, then Danny, Maddie, and Solomon have made their way into the bush, where they are being watched by the local militia. Despite their intimidating appearance, Maddie manages to converse with them and even take a selfie with them. The commander, Ubani, leads them through the jungle to a house filled with children. There, they meet Ben, a school principal who works to assist former rough child fighters. Ben is driving the next day when he is suddenly shot. Danny and the others are in the car with him, and they rush him to Colonel Coetzee army post for assistance. Danny is told at the army barracks that he must join the colonel in battle, while Maddie is told to leave. Danny gives Maddie the book and goes off to purchase some things to help her with her report. Before she boards the plane, Maddie offers Danny her phone number and takes his picture. They are obviously attracted to one another. Danny and Solomon immediately and go in pursuit of the gem shortly after. Danny and Solomon are shot at by the rough later that night when Solomon believes that he sees Dia. They take refuge in the bush and are later seen strolling through a burned-down settlement. An rough camp is nearby, and Danny and Solomon fight as Solomon tries to go off in search of Dia. Solomon screams at Danny, and Danny promises Solomon while they're chatting and walking that if they discover the diamond, he will stop smoking. Solomon later talks about when life was peaceful there and how good his son was. Danny and Solomon eventually find the mining camp, and Danny orders an airstrike. Danny wakes up the next morning to find Solomon has gone down into the camp in search of Dia. Solomon creeps around the camp and discovers his son drinking and playing cards, but Dia accuses him of being an enemy and orders him to leave. Later, Captain Poison manages to capture Solomon and tells him that he will be taking the diamond with Solomon's help. If he refuses, the captain will track down and murder his family. The helicopters come and begin their attack as the captain holds a knife to Dia's throat. Danny is also fighting the rough while Colonel Coetzee and the chopper ruins the mining camp. The fight continues, as Danny saves Dia while Solomon kills Captain Poison. After fighting for a while, Solomon is told by the colonel to find the diamond and give it to him. As he doesn't trust the colonel, Danny offers Dia as a guarantee because Solomon will do anything to keep his son safe. They set off in search of the diamond and come to a site where guys have already begun digging. As Solomon digs, a few soldiers surround him. Danny regains Solomon's trust by suggesting that he cease smoking. Then, Danny shoots the colonel after they trick the soldiers. The situation is not good as Danny has been shot. Dia pulls a gun on Danny after Solomon discovers the gem. Solomon approaches Danny and tells him that he loves him and that everything will be fine. They aren't safe yet and they must flee, so Danny dispatches his pilot to rescue them. Danny is picked up and carried up a mountain by Solomon, but he is gravely injured. Danny returns the diamond to Solomon and instructs him to contact Maddie once they arrive. He tells him not to trust the pilot and hands him a revolver. He's right, as they are suddenly shot at. Danny is staying behind as Solomon and Dia flee for their lives. Danny gives Maddie a call and tells her that she needs to meet Solomon and Dia. As he lies injured and dying against a large boulder, he moans in anguish, and the plane lifts off. As he tells Maddie how delighted he is that they met, he begins to gasp for air. When Danny takes a handful of dirt and breathes his last breaths, Maddie sits with him in the final moments. Some time passes, and we see Solomon and Maddie now in London. Solomon gets into a car and is offered a suitcase full of cash in exchange for his diamond. Solomon only wants his family and his money to be protected, and he is reunited with his family at a local airport later that night. The camera clicks as he hands the diamond to the man. It turns out that Maddie is taking photos and composing her article. The movie ends with Solomon reading Maddie's article on blood diamonds in a magazine. We see Danny's picture in the article. Maddie smiles as Solomon walks into a room full of reporters. That is the end of the recap. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next video.